Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I don't know what to call the show yet, but it'll be out somewhere. You can visit it on the website and check it out. So my name is Peter Hsieh. I'm the writer and director of Drive All Night, and with me is William Hellmuth, the cinematographer. Wait, hang on. Is it director of photography
It's
or
interchangeable. It
cinematographer?
doesn't matter. Cinematographer, director of photography, I don't care.
Hmm.
I like them both. They
Is
both
there
work.
one you prefer over the other?
Hey, I used to prefer director of photography, but not anymore. Now I really don't care. Yeah, I
Hmm.
truly don't. Cinematographer, I think sometimes is easier for people less familiar with the film industry because for
Right.
them, cinematographer is like I don't know. I feel like they kind of get it just by the
Hmm.
way the word sounds. Whereas director of photography, sometimes they feel like it's I get mistaken for like a photographer all the time when I tell people that.
That makes so Drive All Night is a feature film that Will and I shot in August of 2019, and it's a surreal neo-noir fever dream following a taxi driver named Dave who picks up a mysterious young lady named Kara who makes him drive around the town, all kind of being chased by this ominous guy named Lenny. And as the movie progresses, it becomes more and more surreal. So, what was your initial impression from our first conversation getting the
Yeah.
script?
No, I mean the whole thing was like I just got an email one day you know, from you from Peter Shea. It was like Peter and then the last name I wasn't quite sure how to pronounce. So
Yeah,
and yeah, but like it was just very straightforward, like, hey, I'm interested in you shooting this film for me. And I was like, well, okay, that's cool. Um, and honestly, I kind of thought like this probably isn't very going to be worth my time because
right,
I just sort of, I don't know. I'm not going to say I get reached out to like all the time, but I get reached out to a decent amount by people
right,
online or whatever and I always say send me the script. I will always take a look at the script.
right.
So it was I think you'd sent me the script or asked me if I was interested in reading the script, and I said, yeah, go ahead and send it
Mhm.
over. So you sent it over later that day, and then that night it was like 11 p.m. I'd played some video games for a while, and I thought, well, before I go to bed, I'll spend 20 minutes reading the script so I can truthfully tell Peter tomorrow that I took a
Right,
look at the script and turn and no, thank you. So I started reading the
right,
script at about 11 o'clock at night, and at about 12:30 a.m. finished reading it because I couldn't stop reading it. And I don't remember what scene it was that hooked me, but some point in time, it's just like it pretty early on, it gets into some of the cool surreal stuff.
right,
And I just couldn't stop reading it, and I couldn't stop. What was really cool is I couldn't stop visualizing it. Like as I was reading it,
right.
I could like see it in my mind. Everything about the way the script is presenting itself, I felt like I was reading it thinking like, oh man, like I know how to shoot this movie. And it was just so weird, so kind of just bizarre and out there. I wasn't quite sure what was happening, but in a way that I liked. And by the end of it, I thought like I need to talk to the guy who wrote this because like this is just so weird, like in a cool way. Like I've got to like have a conversation with Peter. So I then responded the next day and said, yeah, let's chat. And I think we talked like just later that afternoon. Like, it was
Right.
quick. Um, and then, from there it was just sort of we just kind of started, talking about, numbers, how much would this cost to bring me and my small
Right.
crew up from LA, just my core people, but, just kind of started figuring out how to make it work with your budget, and from there it's
Right.
basically
Definitely.
like like from reading from the first moment I read the script, I knew like I want to do this. And it was just a matter of like, can we make this work? And we did. Sensibilities, like you reached out to me because you saw in my style something that reflected what you wanted to do,
Right.
in this movie. And being able to kind of uh, talk with you some made me realize like not only did I like the script, but I had a pretty you never know for certain until you actually work with someone, but I had a pretty good
Right.
feeling that you're gonna really let me cut loose and
Right.
do what I wanted to do with this film, really express myself, I guess. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
That
because
was
one of
cool.
the things I think I was looking for, are they the right fit? Are they bringing their own ideas to the thing? Because I'm not super technical in terms of like, camera stuff, lighting. I kind
Hmm.
of know what I want, you know, in like, layman's terms, right? But I needed
Hmm.
somebody who could bring ideas to the tables as well.
Hmm.
And then I think, I liked your reel. You're able to shoot kind of like stylistic stuff, colorful stuff, work, in the dark and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but also just kind of talking to you, I think I got the sense that you understood the style I was going for. Because at that
Hmm.
time, I didn't really have like, a storyboard, maybe just like
Yeah.
some reference pictures,
Hmm.
right? But and with the film, it is kind of like a very visual thing. I want it to be kind of very visual, very colorful.
Hmm.
And then one of the things I also wanted was for you to kind of bring your own core crew, because I think it was just you and was like five other people, I think.
Yep. Five. Yeah. Me and
Like a
five people.
total,
Yeah.
yeah, a total of six. So it's like a small like camera lighting
Hmm.
crew. And then I think a lot of the other people were from the Bay Area. I know
Hmm.
Wayne who did sound, Rob, Karina, the makeup
Hmm.
artist, having, a group that you've worked with before that is dependable, that you kind of have like short form with in a sense, right?
Hmm.
Was important because I knew just from the get-go, because of the budget and time restraints, I was gonna have to
Hmm.
move relatively quick. Both with like, the crew, but also the actors. I think a lot of scenes I can only give them like, two, three
Hmm.
takes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so kind of what we're gonna do today is we're gonna kind of break down some of our favorite shots and from the film. We're gonna look at a few different scenes. So the first
Hmm.
shots we're gonna look at are the ones from the diner. Um,
Yeah.
this first shot is Utaka and Lexi, cool wide
Hmm.
shot, sitting in a place called Super Good Kitchen. So well, I'll have you break that down a little bit and talk people through it.
Sure. I mean, so this was really interesting because in a lot of our references, we were referencing like I think there was no consistent like filmmaker, I think, that we were referencing
Mhm.
for the entirety of the film. At least for me, it was kind of shifting.
Right,
But for this diner, I kind of saw it as almost this like Fincher-esque setting, like as far as color and all that kind of stuff goes. So I wanted like grungy feel,
hmm,
blues, greens, things like that. And uh, the challenge with that was just the location. We had these like well, I didn't have time to like,
right,
do kind of big extensive location um lighting because in the diner we were shooting I think that night we shot 13 pages.
right,
So
exactly,
we're
yeah.
moving so fast.
Oh, I
And
know.
like we had these like big can lights, not can lights, sorry, yeah, the diner had these hanging lights and they were all
Right,
very warm and inviting, and the colors of the actual diner were just completely opposite what I wanted. So I ended up just doing a
right,
lot of in camera stuff, white balancing really, really cool to make the diner look,
mhm,
cool and bluish, put a heavy green tint on all the footage in the camera, just doing a lot of stuff to really give it that grungy look, and then stopping down with about a lot of ND in the camera to make it look grungy and dark, and then used our lights. We had these like Geminis to kind of lift the actors out of that environment. And then after I kind of like established that sort of method, I guess, or that style, and just by doing all that stuff in camera, it made like every single shot like instantly look stylized. So once we started doing that, as a matter of basically just kind of moving our lights around to just kind of lift actors out, and choosing a frame that looked kind of nice. And um, it was definitely a night of like pulling out all the tricks in the book,
right.
shallow depth of field, everything I could to just give this like a cinematic pop,
Yeah, definitely.
but in the end, like, I mean, I'm just so happy with like that, the look we got, like this two shot of Yutaka and Lexi kind of, looking at each other. They're both in
Mhm,
profile. It's one that to me just really kind of embodies their sort of interaction with each other. It's like
right.
they're sort of like um, I find their interactions really interesting
Mhm.
uh, as characters because they're like they're antagonistic towards each other in a
Right,
way, you know, but they also like come together, and so it's like it's just it's a strange, weird kind of dynamic, and so like this shot with the grittiness and grunginess, and their framing and everything, just kind of ended up kind of being the surprise, um, kind of a surprise for me in a way. But I really like how it did. So this whole
right,
location was kind of a
definitely.
blend of documentary style, in the sense of working with what the location was giving me, combined with bringing in cinematic elements. So
Yeah,
that's
definitely. And
what
I
I meant.
think I like the framing of the shot too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wide shot and it's very there's a sense of like balance to it, right? And I like
Yeah.
how we can see like the whole like kind of almost like openish, more metallic kitchen area. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the color really does make it look a lot grungier. Because if I remember, there was a lot of like white and it was like a really
Yep.
trendy kind of like diner bar type thing. But we definitely want to
Yeah.
make it a little grungier. The tables are actually really nice wood, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of like,
The
you
opposite of
know,
grungy.
yeah, filmed around it.
Yeah.
And then also in the next shot, this is like one of the earlier scenes, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
Frank, who's played by Will Springhorn, and
Yep.
Marv, played by Jim Dare, along with Yutaka. And we also kind of went for a balance and framing with this one. But in
Mm-hmm.
this one, Yutaka is kind of right in the middle of them, right? Because
Yeah.
he's just kind of there, whereas it's mostly Frank talking and then Jim kind of going back and forth. Now we shot this, I think, on the third night and stuff.
That's right. We came back. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think the first day we shot, well, not the first day, but the first day at this location, we shot
Hmm.
mostly with Sarah. And that's when we did the
Yeah.
13 pages. And this one, I think it was maybe only six, but it was a lot quicker
Yeah.
because there's more monologues and it was actually just one scene. Um,
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But but you bring up a good point. The blocking with Yutaka kind of in between these people, like kind of he was central of the frame and everything. And that's one of the things that just for the movie in general was really um that I found you and I were
mhm,
really able to um do a lot of like work together really well on was blocking like and I think
right,
that's kind of where your theater experience came through is that you weren't like some directors who kind of learn in film are a little bit scared of blocking because they're kind of telling actors where to stand and all that kind of stuff because
right, right.
like what if it's not motivated or whatever but like just the idea that like you know we were able to get in there and kind of block these actors in a way and place them in the frame in a way that like tells a story like that's I think that's a big part of what makes it cinematic.
Super Good Kitchen is right next door to a bar called Mini Boss, which is one of the coolest bars in San Jose, and one of the coolest bars I've just like ever been to
Hmm.
in my life, I guess. And they're owned by like the same people, which is cool. George, one of the co-owners, is actually somebody I talked to let us shoot there, and they were like super cool about it too. It was a great shooting experience. The location was super cool. They were really accommodating too, because I know we had to like move stuff around, right, and
Hmm.
set up a lot of
They
stuff.
were moving machines for us.
Oh yeah,
It's crazy.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So
Hmm.
this next shot we're going to look at is the first shot, the first the arcade when we
Hmm.
see Dave and Kara in it, and it's this cool dolly shot that pushes in, and you really get to see a lot of the arcade. So I'll have you talk us through that one.
Yeah, I mean this is just sort of the big wide establishing shot, and let's see, I think this is where I can maybe introduce a little bit of um the colors that we use in the film. Mark, who's my gaffer, Mark and I talked a lot about different colors for the different characters. And in this arcade bar is the first time where we kind of use them in a really heightened sense, um, if I'm remembering right. And so,
Right,
this first shot, we were kind of like using these colors, like we turned off all the house lights and everything, and just kind of washed the whole bar in these colors to make it look almost like this, like I don't know, dark, gritty nightclub, with
Right.
arcades, like, um,
Right.
and then we used a little spotlight on Lexi,
Mhm.
because the idea behind her character was that she's like no matter her environment or wherever she is, she's always like kind of standing out,
Right.
glowing something. She's always got this kind of like perfect light on her, even if it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And so we had this literal like for this wide shot, this spotlight just kind of hitting her. Um, that like I don't know, I don't know how noticeable it is to people, if it's super noticeable or if it's
Mhm.
subtle, but I don't know. I think I had one person once tell me that oh like there's a spotlight on her, but I think most people wouldn't notice. Um, but yeah, it was a fun thing to do there. And dolly
Mhm.
moves on a shoot this fast paced on a night that fast, that packed,
Right.
are always a little bit of a sacrifice to get. But I'm glad we got it just because like the
Mm.
dynamic movement of it, that like pushing on the characters, it kind of introduces you to the space.
Right.
I'm really happy
Definitely.
with how it worked out.
Yeah, and it looks cool because I think with such a cool location, you kind of want to
Yeah.
show a little more of it, right? And I think
Yes.
dollying in kind of was like the right movement here. We also
Hmm.
use a lot of I guess uh just like the I guess what do you call it, lens zoom or in-camera zooms where we kind
Those are
of zoom.
fun. Yeah.
We used
Yeah.
those, and I used a few digital ones also. So there's
Hmm.
like, like a lot of that, but having the dolly here was really cool. And
It's really fun.
a funny thing, we actually don't have a lot of extras. We didn't have a lot of extras, but I was somehow able to fill the bar so it looked kind of full.
Yeah. It looks
I think
great.
Stephanie was the one in charge of that, but she was able to move people around so it looked
Hmm.
full. And yeah, it was cool. And I think, part of it also, Wayne's sound design made it seem a lot livelier
Hmm. Hmm.
than it was. Cool. And the next shot is one that I really like. So the next several shots are kind of from when they're playing in front of the arcade machine.
Hmm.
And that one was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're just sort of going with the character colors in this. Like, we picked out a specific gel. Um, so both Lexi and Yutaka had like colors for their characters that we would use like behind them a lot of times.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but Lexi had a special gel we would use for her key light, like on pretty much every single shot. It's a lavender light. And Lexi's very fair skinned, has very, very pretty skin. And this lavender gel just really kind of, I don't know, it
Hmm.
gave it this really cool quality that I really loved. And so this is I don't know, it was the first time in the film we used this gel, but it's uh yeah, this whole sequence was just, it was fun to shoot. I remember like sitting down and blocking it with you.
Hmm.
That's a big part of what made it work again, was just how they blocked like Utaka kind of leaning up against the arcade, and kind of get
Right,
this nice two shot with them in there, and the Mortal Kombat guy, in the on the arcade, the painting that
right,
was
right,
super fun. But yeah, we were doing a lot of like bouncing light. There was a bounce card where the screen usually is on the arcade, so we could bounce that nice light back onto Lexi's face with the lavender gel.
right, right.
And yeah, other than that, it was just kind of doing that. And we this is also when we started. We had a light in the background that was shifting colors
Hmm.
constantly, and which we carried throughout like the entire arcade scene. And that was a little bit of like a um, like when they're sitting down, even like it continues into that.
Right.
Um, and it's sort of this like, it's a little bit of a symbolic lighting cue of the beginning of a change for Yutaka, and
Yeah,
what's
definitely.
happening there. So I just keep referring to them by the actor names, but
Yeah, I think I,
I
I
guess
do that too. Like all through post-production, I did that.
it.
But yeah, I think the close-up shots of them there are
Mhm.
really cool because I think
Yeah,
with Lexi's you get to see like that really cool like wall in that arcade with all the
yeah,
accent lighting. When the Yutaka one where he's leaning up against the machine, I think not only is it framed well, but the coloring is just like super cool. Everything pops in this.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's cool. And like you said, for the arcade bar, we did like several shots. Now the one where with them sitting there, we had like I think it's like just the scene where I think you started doing it so like as a conversation went on,
Hmm.
because they were like at the bar, like in real, I guess for like an hour or so, you kind of like
Hmm.
going closer and closer throughout the
Yeah.
conversation, huh?
Yeah. I wanted to have like a lens shift as the conversation kept going on, where I kept switching to longer and longer focal lengths, not just to zoom in and get tighter, but to kind of isolate them more and more from the background, so that
Hmm.
conversation, as they keep going, they kind of start getting drawn in to each other more and more, where the rest of the world's kind of melting away. um
Right,
yeah, and we also did this whole big like diffusion, like this giant wall of the thickest paper diffusion. I love paper,
hmm
when it got pushing light through paper. And we did like an 8 foot by 4 foot wall of paper diffusion, and push a lot of light through that onto Lexi to kind of give this really creamy, nice kind of wrap around her face, so that
right,
she just looks kind of beautiful during this whole time. And so like where this whole scene was supposed to like, I remember thinking about it, like I was listening to a lot of 80s music
right,
during pre-pro for this, like not just 80s, but like kind of like glam stuff, like
right,
and I remember thinking like, yeah, this movie, I want it to feel grungy, but like it's got to feel like that, like 80s, like that cheesy glam headshot, people would get. So
right, right,
like I think I remember telling you it was like glam grunge, like this kind
right,
of and so this scene in the arcade is definitely when we kind of got the most kind of into that glam look, with these like, I call it, like candy colors, and just kind of, everything's very like just alive. So
yeah, definitely. I think
yeah.
it's like a really unique,
Hmm.
look, right? You don't
Yeah.
see that in a lot of films, and I think it really makes it stand out. That's why I
Cool.
put all those shots in the trailer. I,
Me
I was
too.
I was expecting that it was like,
Yeah.
what is this budget drive?
My favorite is yeah, it is like, this looks like Drive but worse.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I think I got like three or four of those or
I mean,
something.
when they're talking about Drive, it's like, well,
To be fair, I did have pull a lot of influences from Drive
of
and
course.
like Nicholas Winding Refn, more so from his actually Only God Forgives in terms of the
Hmm.
look of the
Hmm.
thing, right?
Yep.
So they're not far off. If
Nah.
anything, it's more like a worse Alice in Wonderland. So we shot the jazz club. That was the first day of shooting, and I think
Hmm.
the first shots were inside the jazz club as well.
Hmm.
That's not actually a jazz club. It's City Lights Theater in downtown San Jose. I had some of my plays like workshop there. What was like 2012, 13 or something, right? And so I knew a few of the people there. So I'd contacted Ron Gaspernetti. I hope I don't butcher his name. It's
Hmm.
kind of long, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. Gaspernetti. He's a set designer there, and he has we shot on his cabaret set. It
Hmm.
was tricky finding the exact kind of jazz club I wanted, and so by great serendipity, if I'm using that correctly, they're doing cabaret, and so we asked if I can we can shoot there, and he let us, and yeah, it looks cool. So we're gonna go
That's
over
fun.
this wide shot first. So how do you go through that? Like how did you light it, and what do you want to try to convey visually
Yeah.
here?
I mean, this whole scene was mostly lit with one Lico, which is a stage light, and we actually use that Lico in a lot of other scenes in this movie. But yeah, this was our first day of shooting, and a lot of it was sort of informed by the location. So the club had these like cool like stage lights, and the not stage, like the round lights like built into the set,
Right,
and they were warm tungsten lights. And so I kind of wanted to match that and really kind of make it feel like kind of like an old-fashioned speakeasy, I guess,
right,
so for that, that spotlight, that Ligo that we had on Natalia, was like just sort of just this perfect, like your eye just goes right to her, and the fog kind of caught that light. And yeah, and I mean the whole scene is pretty much just lit with that. Like we had
mm,
a soft box with a light in it up for an LED light for a little bit of like fill to kind of fill in the shadows a little bit. But I didn't really Drive All Night wasn't really one of my movies where I was like, I'm gonna fill out the shadows. Like, if it's
Right.
black, if something's in the shadows in this movie, it's dark. So
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
like, you know, so we didn't really do too much. I mean, it was simple. It was the
Right.
dream stuff that was a lot more kind
Oh,
of
right.
big, the everything's blue and
Yeah,
like,
yeah. In fact, I think we
yeah.
started, did we start off shooting the blue shots?
We did.
Yeah, yeah, I
That was
think
the
we
very
did.
first stuff because we hung the light from their grid. And I
Right,
remember
right.
thinking like, oh man, this is all blue. Like I'm making this too blue. And then by the end of the week, and then especially like a year later, I'm like, no, that was exactly what
The
Peter
right
wanted.
blue. Yeah.
That was like,
It's like a odd request you probably don't get a lot. Like make it
yeah,
like that blue. Like
everything. Well,
that's
because like
super.
especially when
Yeah.
you're using LED lights, or if you just use blue, like then that literally becomes the only you only see different gradients of that one color. So
Right, right,
it becomes kind of flat and color wise, but at the same time, what it's doing, kind of happening in the story, it all actually fits. So,
and
hmm
this other shot, like the close up of Natalia on stage, like that medium close up,
hmm
I think like looked super cool. We did like one take of it,
hmm
and that was like the take.
Yeah, that was one of the shots where I thought like, that spotlight is like it's a really hard light, typically not flattering or anything. And so I was thinking like, I'm gonna put this spotlight up and then for the wide shot, then we're gonna punch in for this close up. First off, I knew like punching in for that close up, I could get those practical lights behind her and they'd kind of bloom and look super cool and
Right,
pretty. But then I thought like I'll put a little bit of thin diffusion in front of her face to take the edge off of that key light
right,
off that
right,
spotlight on her. But like I remember zooming in and I saw that hard light on her and Natalia's, bone structure and face is just so nice that just kind of it just like it can hold up to all that light, like it
right,
catches the light in such a nice way. And I remember instinctively thinking like, oh, this is perfect. Like the hard light, it doesn't need anything else. But my training was still sort of there, I guess, to like soften it at least just a tiny bit. So I
right.
had Mark put up a little bit of diffusion. Mark was like, it doesn't need any diffusion. And I was like, I'll just put it up anyway. We put it up, and then it just
Perfect.
ruined
Yeah.
the mood of the film, of
Uh,
that shot. And so I had him take it down, actually. And we just went totally, no diffusion, just that hard light, and it like all the drama came back right away.
Now this movie's called Drive All Night, so there's a lot of driving scenes. Now we shot our driving scenes kind of a little different than how most driving scenes are shot. Part of it was budget because getting like the pitch trailer driving around
hmm
downtown is going to take like permits and stuff, and
Yeah.
San Jose doesn't have a film commission, and so to get permits, I think you have to talk to like just a bunch of different people,
hmm
and it's not easy, which is might be
Yeah.
part of the reason why not a lot of films are shot there. But I saw like a YouTube video from Aperture Lighting, kind of
hmm
while I was looking, researching how to best shoot driving scenes, and they had used projectors and like projection to create the illusion of driving, right?
hmm
And so I talked to you about like wanting to do something like that. How do we do it? And the technicalities, what do I need? Um,
hmm
and it's something I've never done before. But yeah. Like so how did you get it to look this good, pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, it's some I hadn't done it before either. I remember we were kind of talking together and figuring it out together. It was a cool process. Like we had I think we had like three sometimes up to like three different screens up with
Right,
projectors going on each of them.
right,
And
right,
so like we like Mark and I figured that if we had like we might need up to two screens behind the talent at all times
right, right,
to have the just the background because sometimes it'd have to wrap around a little bit if we were going at an angle, so we'd
right,
have to get like a couple screens up, and then we would get one screen up flat above the car to get the reflections on the windows. And then
right,
after that it was a lot of just sort of figuring out like what exposure with the light looks natural on the actors. And big fan of like night driving scenes where everything's just kind of dark and black inside the car, but then you'll just see light kind of travel across an actor's face and just sort of illuminate.
Right.
Actually, for me, one of my absolute favorite nighttime driving scenes is from Million Dollar Baby. And it's Clint Eastwood and I'm blanking on her name, Hilary Swank,
Right.
and they're driving in the car, and she tells him the story about when her dad put down a sick dog,
Right.
and that scene is it's so haunting. You know, they're both completely. Sometimes the screen goes totally black, and then light will just kind of travel across. You know, and
Right. Right.
so I was kind of thinking about that a lot while I was shooting these. Like, I wasn't going that extreme, but because one of the cool things about this was that the background was so busy with all the lights constantly going
Right.
by, you know, that I could kind of get away with not seeing much of the talent, except for Lexi. For Lexi, there's always we had a nice soft light on her at all times that would kind of
Right.
hid in the front seat of the car. But other everyone else, you know, like just let them go into shadow, have that light kind of
Right.
travel across their face, just keep it really moody, and I think that was a big part of you know, selling it. You know, like just kind of amping up that style enough that,
Hmm.
you know, even if it doesn't look realistic when you think about it, it you know, you're not really thinking about it because it looks cool.
Right. Right. Like I
So,
like the dream-like look of it,
yeah,
like
uh-huh.
they're floating sort of right through colors, right?
Right.
And I know like a lot of the shots where it's like the camera's right in front of you talking, he's driving. There's some I forgot. I think I forgot where I shot the projection plates we use. I think it was all downtown San Jose in a
Mhm.
street called Bascom. I think San Carlos and
Mhm.
Bascom. I just drove down those streets. Um, and I think sometimes I'd pass by just some colorful stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so we were lucky to get some really cool shots of Utaka driving where it's just like colors in the background swirling around, right?
Mhm.
And then also kind of like with Lenny driving also. I think that one was really cool.
That was cool.
It was kind of more greenish, right? And this was
Mhm.
on Santa Clara Street because I'd used different plates for them. So this one, um, yeah, I think I shot Santa Clara Street, and I like the way you did like the one where it's like you see his fist and like
Yeah, that
pans
was
his
fun.
face.
Yeah,
Yeah, what was
super
your
cool.
inspiration for that one?
I mean, that was a little bit of it was anime vibe, you know, like no direct
Mm,
inspiration, but just it just had that like cartoonish feel to it. Maybe like a little bit of it's not the bright colorful Speed Racer, but it's that I don't know, it's that
right,
like you know that profile comic book like anime sort of like
right.
um yeah, I don't know, it's just yeah, that's about it really. It's more
Yeah,
of an abstract idea.
I like that it looks like really different from the other driving scenes. Like
Hmm.
Lenny's driving scenes, because he's essentially like on the hunt, right? And so
Yeah.
he's like driving around. He's driving a lot quicker. So I had
Hmm.
faster shots for that one. And yeah, I think with him, it's he was also in a different car. I think it's Taxi for everyone else, but for him, I think we used like a Mustang. My friend Sean Cheng's,
Hmm.
I don't know what year. I think it was a 2018 Mustang or something,
Hmm. Hmm.
which was cool. It
I got to
looked.
drive it around and park it. That was fun.
Now you're talking about with like Lexi shots. A lot of it was in the back seat. So what are some of the challenges of lighting it? Because we want her
Mhm.
to be visible still, like within a car.
Right. Yeah, sure. There's not, it's hard to push light into the backseat of a car. So what we ended up doing is we had a little 1 by 1 light panel, and we wanted that like soft light on her. So we took the headrest off of the front seat of the car, and we created what's called a book light, where we had actually the light kind of in front. If you can imagine Lexi, you know, she's in the back seat, we had a light in front of her shining away from her, and then a bounce card up there bouncing the light back towards her, and then also some paper diffusion right up there between the light and her. So the light's going this way, bouncing off of something, and then getting pushed through this diffusion before it hits her face. So it's soft and it's flattering. It's not bright, so it's not quite beauty, but it's like, but it gives that
Right,
similar like her face is still like kind of this nice, you know, relatively even exposure. So she's just like I wanted her to almost feel like a ghost, you know, just kind of
right,
like her face is unnaturally illuminated.
Right,
So
right,
yeah, we made this little rig in the car with like, literally like by taping paper onto the ceiling of the car, paper diffusion, and draping it down and bouncing this little one by one light. And then after that it was, we had lights outside of the car that like we had the Lico spotlight, the stage light kind of style light spinning around so
right,
that it
right,
would kind of rake across the car and kind of, go over her face. And we were doing a similar thing with another 2x1 light panel,
right.
with like a specific color to it. And I think we had that behind her, so we'd be phasing lights in and out, but we always had that one light on her face.
Right.
So
And the movement of lights is really cool because
hmm
as we didn't shoot it like on actual roads, right? There were no street lamps and there was no other cars,
hmm
people's brake lights, cars going the
yeah.
opposite direction. We shot it inside of a CrossFit gym.
hmm
The thing I remember, well, two things. It was one of it was they gave me a really good price on it because I was a member of that CrossFit gym. So it was
uh,
like $50 a day, which is like probably the cheapest you could get for any
crazy.
place except for free.
hmm
And then also is like it was large enough to fit the cars in and dark enough that,
hmm
we can like easily block out the lights. I know we had to put some like sheets up to block out like the lobby
hmm
area and stuff.
yep.
But the other thing I remember was one super hot. I think that day
Yeah.
it was very hot, and on I think one of the days there was like a party or
There's a
something
party
going on.
next door. I think that was
Yeah,
actually more than one day. It was like,
maybe
or maybe
both
it
of
was
it or
just one day.
something.
I can't remember. It's all a blur now. But
You
yeah,
know what?
we
I
kept
think with
going over,
yeah,
asking
with
them to be
Lenny's, yeah,
quiet.
with Lenny's day, or when we shot with Johnny, he didn't have any
hmm
dialogue, so I think we just let it slide, or it didn't register
Yeah,
to
something like
to
that.
us or something.
It was, it was noisy.
And I think the other challenge of shooting with projectors also is that I know at certain times like the frames would skip or we didn't record
hmm
enough, so we have to go back, right? So
Yeah, restart.
yeah, yeah. During editing, I had to like cut a few of those out where
hmm
sometimes like it'll be, you talk to doing a scene and then the background would freeze as he's driving and
Yep.
it's restart. I was like, all right, well that's where I'm cutting to Lexi. Quite, like a few towns away to a place called Fremont. We shot a place called Red Wall Studios
hmm
and we shot the Red Room stuff.
I mean, honestly, the red room is probably the easiest stuff to light because we just changed that ceiling to red, and then we had
Right,
our own LED light that we would kind of match that red, so that we could lift the actor's face out of that space a little bit. And
right,
I mean, that's pretty much all we did. And then I know the stuff for the boss, we used a special filter for all of his scenes.
right,
That gave everything this weird. The filter's called tobacco, and it gives everything. It looks exactly how it sounds. It's like, kind of
right.
brownish, warm, crunches everything down to like this earthy, like dark color. And so
Mm,
that was kind of fun.
right.
Yeah,
And with these scenes, I just wanted it as red as possible.
yep.
So it was
It was red.
yeah, yeah, it
It
wasn't
was all the
wasn't
way.
difficult. We're talking about blue hallway stuff and
hmm
Mio. So this next shot that I thought was really cool were kind of the blue hallway shots, right? We had kind of several one
hmm
of them, but my favorite one is that one where Yutaka is standing on the stairs and we dolly in.
That one was really cool. That one was all about framing. Like I wanted this like blue wash, but I still wanted the eye to kind of, go to Yutaka. So, if I remember right, I believe we hid a light up kind of up above the staircase where he was,
Right,
and I think we bounced off the ceiling with that blue color, so it was kind of lighting up the area around him, but not him. He's still kind of in silhouette, so that creates that contrast,
right,
and
right.
then I think we probably had something in the hallway too to kind of give the hallway a little bit of blue, just a couple lights, keeping it real simple.
Mhm,
But it's about these like in a budget film like this, it's not about like the complexity of the setups or anything. It's
mhm.
about those like strong stylistic choices, like make the bold choice, and that's kind of what we did, for everything here, which was a lot of fun. And that slow dolly push in, like
Right,
just really like kind of gave it that like three-dimensional space and like that eeriness of like something
definitely.
something's happening here. And yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And that's all like we use the color's called Tokyo Blue, or the gel that we
Mhm.
chose, and we liked it just because it's like it's blue, but it's this really like unique blue. It's got like a hint of purple in it, and it's
Right,
very like it just has this like deep feeling to it, like this dark blue feeling. And that's the color that we use for Yutaka and his character as he kind of dives deeper into his fantasy world. And so Mark
right,
and I like the more the more he would kind of lose his mind or whatever,
right.
or lose touch with reality, the more we would just keep using this color and pumping it in and pumping it in.
And then the next one I want to go through are the motel shots, because with this one, I think there were several really, really cool shots all within that motel, which we shot
Yeah.
at Redwall Studios also,
Hmm.
It was a very, very small space,
Tiny,
but
teeny, teeny, tiny.
it looked a lot bigger on camera.
Hmm.
One of my favorite shots is Lexi standing in front of the window, with the color
Mm,
shifting there. So how'd you like this scene? And, with like the cool lamp and the light.
right. I mean, a lot of the stuff in this hotel room, I was really drawing a lot on like Wong Kar-wai, like those
Hmm.
influences. Um, I was thinking a lot about like 2049 or In the Mood for Love,
Hmm.
rich colors, dark shadows, just this very like rich but still kind of gritty feel. Um, so Mark and I wanted to give outside, I wanted to give the feeling of like, street lights outside of this window,
Hmm.
and kind of like the sodium vapor, and then also just like some other weird colors. So we end up getting like yellows and like greens and just like
Right.
weird colors, and we would have them slowly shift also, like kind of each light would, they're LEDs, so we could program them, would sort of be fading between these different colors. And
Hmm.
so it created this sort of living feel to the room where even though, it might be a static shot, or like, Lexi walks up to the window or something like that, there's still this light that's constantly sort of changing. So that was cool. And yeah, after that, it was a matter of inside of the room, really being selective about what to light, and not trying to kind of not letting the viewer see everything in the rooms.
Like I like the scene where, she's against the wall, kind of
Hmm.
propped up, and then you see the lights just kind of cut across. But it is kind
Yeah.
of rather dark because that's the way her character is. She is mysterious, right? She
Hmm.
doesn't reveal everything. One of my other favorite shots, there's like so many, is one where Hutaka is kind of looking at her sitting on the bed, and then you see
Yeah.
the window and the colors. And I think with this
Yeah.
shot, you really get to see the full effect of that.
Yeah, those are my favorites because he's silhouetted against the shifting colors, and then we had another light just kind of keying him. But this is one where I really stopped the camera down a lot, so everything's just dark,
Hmm.
lots of shadows. But we had like a Lico on which is a stage light on a dimmer, on the wall behind Yutaka, so we just see like a hint of that wood grain, and I
Right,
kept thinking like, yeah. Besides Wong Kar-wai, I'm thinking like those old like classical paintings where you just sometimes just see like hints of things in the shadows. So I'm trying to really just play that up.
right,
So besides that window light and that little Lico, we just had one other light on Yutaka's face, just kind of barely lifting him out of that, and just like, and then the framing, like he's actually framed like right behind Lexi's leg. So you're
right.
just like you're tying them together, but also like using her to kind of draw your eye to him. And there's just a lot about that. A lot going on in
Uh-huh.
that I really loved. It was
Right.
That's
I
one of
think
my favorite shots I
Yeah,
got.
I think the frame, not only does the framing look cool, right, and
Hmm.
there's the line right there, but I think the darkness, the shadows on both Utaka and Lexi's faces, I think makes that scene kind of really stand out, And
Hmm.
I think the cool thing about this film, and now I've done like a few interviews and stuff. I think one of the consistent things that people have like, praised it about is kind of the visual elements of the film, right?
Good to
Each
hear.
scene, yeah, definitely. And I make sure to tell them like, I had a great crew and everything.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, it's like that each kind of set has its own kind of mood. And then the lighting, I think
Hmm.
we really went like, you know, out of the way to create something unique, right? Because I
Hmm.
know a lot of times like there you watch a film and obviously, I think what's important is like the narrative aspect, the acting,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But you don't really notice the cinematography in a lot of
Hmm.
films, I feel, right?
Yeah,
Maybe as a cinematographer, it's different, but it's like there are standard ways to light, like
there are.
a scene where two people are talking, right?
Hmm.
Or standard way to, light a scene where somebody's sitting in a chair, right?
The lighting for this, and I mean
Hmm.
that really is what it's about. Like we didn't have an expensive or fancy camera package. We were shooting
Right.
on budget lenses and a budget camera. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, and even our lights weren't expensive lights necessarily,
Right.
but like what really made it was, I mean, for better or for worse, all of the visual style in this movie comes from the lighting and the colors that were chosen and the position, and of the lights and how we and how they were
Definitely.
exposed for. So
Right.
yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the challenges and limitations I had,
Hmm.
which, really all comes from budget and timing and whatnot. I
Hmm.
felt like even like the challenges of the locations provided helped us take that extra level of creativity to make it work, right? Because
Yeah.
this is like a really low budget film, right? Especially for feature.
It's
Uh,
super. Yeah.
and
I mean, that schedule was
oh
was
yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy because even
Uh-huh.
before I think everyone's telling me, oh, you're not going to shoot all that, which they were part right because I needed pickup shots
Hmm.
and stuff, additional days. But I was surprised by how much we shot in just those 8 days,
Me too.
and how like, stylistic it was. If it was, like I said, a movie, standard people talking at a table type stuff, it would have
Hmm.
been easier, but we had, multiple locations,
Hmm.
style stuff. So yeah, it was cool.
Hmm.
Cool. Any last things you want to say to the people watching?
Boy, I think so. I mean, I obviously hope people like the movie, or at least the cinematography. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
no.
mean, I think the cinematography is pretty solid. The
Mhm.
narrative stuff and the acting is pretty solid too.
Yeah,
The narrative stuff, I think that's where some people might get lost.
right.
But
I
I
mean,
think,
it's
yeah,
I hope that when people watch it, they're able to watch it as less of a. I mean, because this was clear to me from the beginning. Like, this isn't your ABC narrative story.
mhm,
I hope they're able to watch it and just sort of let it, like, kind of let it take them for a ride, basically. Like, just kind
right,
of give themselves to the movie.
yeah,
And when people watch it, like, yeah, I mean, this was a real I mean, this is such a cliche phrase, but labor of love. Like, even me and my
definitely, yeah,
crew, it's not like you and I were like pals and and
yeah, yeah,
and shot this for you, but like, like, um just like, it's cool getting to know you and the crew up there.
yeah,
But
definitely,
like, me and my crew, like, coming up, like, like, we all definitely ended up kind of getting attached to, the story, the
right,
setting, the I don't know, it was just it was just a different, unique experience,
definitely,
and it was something special. So I hope that I just hope that people can see that, when they
yeah,
watch the movie.
definitely. And I
So
think it's one of
yeah.
those things where when I was putting it together, like, I know in pre-production I fired a bunch of people, so I knew from the get-go it was the main goal was to find the best person I can for the
Hmm.
budget that I can to make the job,
Hmm.
actor, crew, everything, right? Which I felt like I did. And like when I was writing the story, I wasn't writing it for everyone, but hopefully it'll be a few people's favorite movie and
Hmm.
hopefully it'll blow some minds. So check out Drive All Night when you get a chance.
Do it.